But I'd like to hear your...
Yeah, and that is a key difference, clearly, between myself and the senator on this. I think that people do need to take personal responsibility, and that, of course, means that any crime that's committed under the influence of drugs should be prosecuted to the full extent, and there's no excuses. So if you kill somebody with your automobile while you're drunk, you go to jail for murder. So that we can't have any of these lesser included offenses for these type things. Now, that said, drug legalization is a libertarian position. It's way down on my list, way down on the list. We've got to significantly reduce the size of the Texas government, and that would be my priority, first and foremost. So yes, it's a position, but again, it's not the first thing that I'm going to do is go down and propose some kind of a drug law. I think we should not only balance the budget, but reduce the budget first. And I think that's the other side, that which is unseen on the drug side too, the case too. The amount of money that has been spent on this is so incredibly high. It's $40 billion, annually at the state and federal level. So if that is something that we can begin to reduce, I think there's ways that we can look at that.
Well, you can tell by the look on my face that I am in total opposition to what he believes. I happen to believe that government ought to have limited roles, but one of those limited roles is to be able to protect children and protect people. And in my view, if we allow the decriminalization of drugs in the state of Texas, if we don't put penalties, we are not doing well in the fight on the war on drugs, but it's a lot of outside sources and responsibilities that have caused it. We must stand strong and believe in the things that we hold dear, and our families and our family values are one of those. And drugs entering into families and the lives of people that we care about is unacceptable.
One more bit of housekeeping. Questioners, please identify yourself before you ask your question. I didn't say that before.
My name is Bill Ames. I'm a conservative education activist. My question's for Senator Shapiro. You mentioned in your comments your appointment as co-chair of the Task Force on Western Civilization, and I applaud you for that. In your acceptance, one of your quotes was, "Our position as the most prosperous and free society in the world comes from the traditions and culture set forth by our founding fathers," and I applaud you for that. Yet, when the Republican members of the State Board of Education endured vicious attacks earlier this year for including that very same set of principles in the K-12 social studies curriculum, you declined to publicly support them. Senator, why the apparent disconnect?
There's no disconnect, Bill, and you and I have had this conversation before, several times. I agreed with everything that they decided to do. They are elected by the people to spend their time and their energies in the way they believe is right. For me, as the chairman of the Education Committee, to intervene in that process would have been unacceptable. If you look at all the issues that they bring forward, and they bring a lot of issues forward, I never get involved in their business. When they and I meet together to talk about issues, which we do many times, we will talk about issues, but I don't go to their meetings, and they don't come to my meetings and tell me what to do, and I don't intend to go and tell them what to do.
Follow up on that. Certainly, Senator Shapley and many members of the legislature on the Democrat side did not have that same feeling.
Well,
and they absolutely, chopped and channeled the board, and they needed your support, and they did not get it.
Well, we had a difference of opinion. I agreed with what they did, and I'm hoping that things will turn out very well in tomorrow's meeting as well.
Ed, any response on that?
It sounds like many positions on the mosque in Manhattan.
Barbara Harless, I'm with the Articles of Freedom. I am going to begin working with a group that is interested in repealing the 17th Amendment, the one after the 16th Amendment, that was ratified in 1913. And it took the power away from our state elected leaders to have representation up in Washington. So I would like to know, since I'm going to be working with a group that wants to repeal the 17th Amendment, what your position would be and how you would feel about having the power back to communicate so that our state legislators would have a voice in Washington. And that's for both of you.
Who did you want to go?
I'll take it first. That's fine. I'm very much in favor of that. I think the 17th Amendment is one of the things that the progressives passed in the early 20th century that's had a huge problem on our country and caused many of the things that we are seeing come to fruition today, including things like Obamacare to come in. So I'm very much in favor of the repealing the 17th Amendment. I think that one of the challenges that you see with that, however, is that would that then lead to some other problems? And I don't think so, but we would have to address that in some way. Would that then in also lead to the rescindment of the Electoral College, where people would try to tie those two things together, which I think is inappropriate? But I would absolutely favor repealing the 17th Amendment.
Senator Shapiro?
I'm not as familiar with the 17th Amendment. I think anything that gives us as a state more power to be sovereign and to do the things that we want to do, free of federal constraints, I am absolutely 100% for. And I was going to ask you, who are you working with on that?
Well, it's a new group. I'll have to think about the name. I
Okay.
just got in contact with them last week.
Okay, and it's a nationwide proposal?
I don't know how big they are.
Okay,
But
because
I'm
I'm assuming it's a nationwide movement.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
To work with the states.
Right.
Yes.
I'd love to talk to you more about it.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Andre Vanderist, and I haven't lost that Yankee voice, and I've been here for 30 years. My question is on the legal immigrants, and I'm wondering what they're going to do, or what you all are going to do about the situation that we have. It always confuses me where we try to catch them when they cross the border, but it seems like once they get past Austin, it's like a safe zone, because I still see in the city of Plano, and I've lived in the city of Plano for approximately 30 years, and I've seen people dispersed all over the place. I've seen corralled to one area, and now I see the city of Plano, even for the last few years, accommodates and supports them, and I would guess with taxpayer funds to put them under one roof. And I would like to know or see some sort of changes in that area, because if we're going to stop illegal immigration and straighten that situation out, we have to start at home and not blame the federal government, which is horrendous what they're doing right now in Arizona, in my opinion.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay?
Is that for me, or is that for the senator, or is that?
Senator Shapiro, go ahead and address it, and then Mr.
I
Cross.
have very strong feelings about this, and I will tell you that my feelings are very different from my opponents. I truly believe that we have laws in place today that we must enforce. I truly believe that the border has got to be secured first and foremost. I truly believe that if we enforce those laws, we won't have the problems you're talking about. Is it going to be a perfect society? No. Do we have a perfect immigration policy? No. I too am a first-generation American. And my family came over here many, many years ago, and when they came for all the right reasons, and they came legally. And the message we're sending to others who want to come legally is, you've got to wait, because the rest of these people are coming across illegally. Unacceptable. If we secure the borders and we begin to enforce our laws, I'm going to serve on a committee with 5 other senators, and we're going to come up, I'm not going to call it the Arizona law, because that'll light your hair on fire. We're going to call it the Texas law. And we're going to find those things that we can do to stop the problem. And we're going to do it this session, I promise you.
Well, actually, I don't think we're too far apart on this. I mean, who in their right mind would not be for secure borders? Oh, right, Rick Perry and Bill White, right? Both of them. See, what I would propose, and this has been put forward by Kathy Glass, who's the Libertarian nominee for governor, is that we need to put the state guard on the border. They're totally under our control. We don't have to worry about asking